Hello, humans. Let us know if there is sound. Yes, and tonight. Let us know. Think there's sound, Kate.
That's quite the dismay.
Let's see, rookie error.
No
from
sound
me.
tonight, so we're going to have one of those nights where I'm stressing, but we should be good. Okay.
Just have the what is it? The technical difficulties button ready.
Yeah.
Also the air horn. Have the air horn ready.
Oh God, thanks for reminding me.
It's because I listened to last week's episode.
Oh, shut up. All right. Well, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, and it's episode 126.
We're going with that. All right.
All right, let's go. Oh, sorry. I was too busy sorting shit out. So, oh dear.
That was perfect.
Thanks for reminding
I think you're
me.
fine.
There we are.
I might have been a bit
Soz.
flat with my pitch, but welcome to episode 126 of Here We Crow.
We only fudge numbers when it's necessary.
Some may argue 127 if you listen to Nuz's special pod, which got released, was it last night?
Yeah, late last night. Sorry for the delay.
I listened to it today. It's great. Go have a listen if you're interested in all things draft and trade and all the list management. It's great. Well done, Nuz. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi.
Hello, Kate.
G'day.
And hello, Ben.
Howdy, Dan.
We're going to get into the stats man shortly, but we're also going to talk about another win by the Crows at home against the Dees, who put a mighty fright into us in that first quarter and towards the end a little bit as well. But we got there by 13 points. We prevailed. Josh Rochelli's knee injury put a bit of a souring taste on that victory, but luckily it does not. He's avoided the ACL. It looks like an 8-week injury at this stage, optimistically. Hopefully we can get it back in time for finals. We'll see how we go. And we take on the Western Bulldogs this Saturday in Strathalbyn. That's where I'll be watching it. And it's the early game. What a time slot for two teams jostling it out for potential top 4 position.
12:50. You betcha.
12:50 on a Saturday. I don't think they foresaw this happening when they put that on. But it could have been at Ballarat. Could have been much worse.
Well, are we into the games that were like fixture after the first initial lockout though?
Yes.
So they could have
They could have changed.
They possibly
Well,
Well, they
could have.
changed the ground from Ballarat to Marvel.
Yeah,
So.
so maybe they could have been able to tell that maybe these two teams would be going up there at this point in the season.
Yeah. We're also going to have Mateo from 1%ers on with us as well, and we're going to talk through predictions for the rest of the year and his predictions at the start of the year, which is quite interesting. But before that, we have the Stats Man somewhere. I'm the Stat Man.
Can't believe Sam couldn't find that button.
I
It's
was
literally on the first page.
So it's funny how you just find it straight away.
Yeah, it was minimal.
Sam's like, we don't even have it on this thing. So
He's blind.
yeah.
And I'm not the Stats Man. Ben is. Go, Ben.
Okay. All right. 126. So debut player. You may remember him. Ben Nelson.
Oh yeah.
Nah,
Do you remember Ben Nelson?
Nuggety midfielder.
show me the photo.
Baller muscle.
For some reason, I pictured him more of a ruckman,
No.
but he's not. I'm
No.
thinking of Ben Marsh.
So before he was with us, he only played the 12 games, 2002 to 2003. Before us, he was 40 games at Carlton. We
Oh.
traded him in, I think it was for Andrew Eccles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I
I know
researched.
Andrew Eccles.
Oh, there you go.
Premiership
There you go.
player.
Yes.
So yeah, only the 12 with us. He did play 205 games for Sturt. He is the son of Sandy Nelson, who
Sandy.
That's why I know him.
also played 200 games for Sturt.
Being legit.
Apparently, the only father-son duo for the Sandford to play 200 games for the same club.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, right.
So, apparently,
Achievement.
according to the Blueseum,
Okay.
Yes.
which is the Carlton something or other. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought that was the Sturt something or other. That would make way more sense.
Well, it could be. I just assumed it was Carlton because they're the Blues. But,
The double bluesium.
well, no, I think this was a Carlton one. I don't know.
Oh,
Could be wrong. I am second guessing
It's
myself.
not the first time people got those Blues confused.
Yes. Right. Anyway, so that's pretty. Well, I thought was interesting. He retired in 2010 from the Sandful. In 2012, he became the coach of the Scotch College Adelaide First 18. Took me a long time to work out those Roman numerals, what that added up to. It's not a strong point. And he works for the family sportswear company, which is Nelson Teamwear,
Oh, yeah.
where he's the general manager of sales. I think Sandy Nelson is the main owner guy, and then I think he's got a brother. It's a big family affair. Kent Town, if you're needing sportswear, seem to supply a few school sports uniforms and bits and bobs. So get down to Actually, I got no skin in the game. I don't care where you buy your sportswear. Get it wherever you want.
Ron Jarman.
Oh, yeah.
So, quick commando 1 to 6 stats. Alex Neil-Bullen notched up his 126th kick for us against his old team.
Good job.
And Fogarty has 126 frees against and contested marks.
Wow.
So, and from the stats, I don't know if they just haven't been keeping contested marks for very long, but he's currently 12th on our all-time contested markers.
Interesting.
So,
Right.
yeah, seems very high.
Yeah, it does.
But
For a young player as well. Still
do you know
pretty
who's a few notches up on 180?
young.
Ian Perry.
No, our big man in the middle.
Rob.
Riley O'Brien,
So once upon a time, he took contested marks. How about that?
that vice grip. Well, he did have a bit of a vice grip in the weekend.
So
That's true.
We'll talk about that later.
apparently 180 of those bad boys.
Well, we're gonna stop talking shit about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what position does that have him in?
Higher than 12th.
Like about 10th.
No, I reckon you'd be sitting about 8th.
Wow. I think we should refer to that more often. When people badmouth Rob.
And Sam's that.
You're talking about the 8th in the contested possession.
That's
all
right.
time. Crows.
In fact, here we go.
Oh,
Where's
the
Lockie Murphy?
table.
Don't start.
No, according to this, contested mark is currently 4th.
Rob.
Rob.
Of all time.
So this is where I don't know if it's recency bias because I just never kept the stat before, but Taylor Walker's leading on 420.
Who's second and third? Are they current players or past players? That's what I need to know.
No, Brett Burton is second on 217.
Seems more believable.
Third was Kurt Tippett.
No, okay.
Good Lord.
Sorry, Rob was fifth. Sorry, fourth was just the best of the club: Brett Burton, Kurt Tippett, and Josh Jenkins. So, and then Riley O'Brien. So,
Don't badmouth Jerker.
okay, well, I'm just saying that's some interesting characters who lead our contestant marking.
Rum
Indeed.
wants to know, did they ever count Modras?
Modra is
Yeah, surely.
119th.
I reckon maybe they didn't really because I'm not seeing him anywhere on this list. So
Interesting.
I
There's
think-
definitely premiership era players on that list, but
The
I don't
credibility
know
of that list
if
is
it's I don't know if
Yeah.
it's their whole careers. I can't see
Yeah.
older players.
This is going well, Ben. Do you have
Sorry,
anything
this
else?
is very.
well, I wasn't expecting quite the deep dive of contested marking, but
Please stay on air
Oh, no,
while
this is
Ben
what
scrolls
happens.
through.
This is what happens when Sam's not here.
no, that's it. That's me done.
Okay, good.
All right.
I'll
Well,
get back to you on Modra.
in that case, let's start talking about the game that was yesterday.
Yes, and we're going to
Yes.
introduce our special guest.
Woo.
We are. It is Mateo from 1%.
Here he is, Mateo. Can you hear us?
Hello. I can hear you guys.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Are you there? Can we hear you? That is the question.
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, I can't hear.
Can't bloody hear him. What's going on?
We can't hear you, Mateo, but we can see your fantastic T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
We need the sound. Let's go.
He's wearing a Rowie T-shirt.
He
for
sure
those
All right.
guys.
How about
Oh,
now?
no, you can see him.
Can you hear me?
YouTube. That's good.
Did you get an unmute request?
I did get an
Oh,
unmute
how this
request.
thing works.
Oh, Barty says they can hear him.
Oh, they can hear him? Oh, that's good. Well, we can't, so
It's
that's
just
not very
us.
helpful, is it?
Could the chat just translate for us?
That's an amazing technology.
You're gonna need real time.
What about now? Nah. Oh, what the hell?
Mateo could
Well,
say
this is
whatever
going well,
he
isn't it?
wanted, and we would have no control over it at all.
That's
Maybe.
amazing. Champagne podcasting right here.
What's happening? I'm glad we tested this before we started. Oh my God.
I'm just going to assume it's seamless for the people at home.
Oh, yeah.
Got the cat?
Excellent. This is a good interlude.
Why is the sound not working?
You still can't hear me, guys?
Oh my God. Sam, help.
Sam
He
is
was
not here.
there. He was in the chat.
Well, Mateo, while Lauren sorts this out, I am going to start talking about the game just to fill
Let's do that.
in the air because we're gonna get you to talk to us about your predictions a little bit after that. So I'm talking about the game first. Yes, it was the Crows getting up by 13 points against the Dees. It was a interesting start, pretty level pegging for the first quarter until Melbourne went bang 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 in the second quarter. And
I think I might have fixed it. Talk to me, Mateo.
Hello.
Hey!
Sam to the rescue.
Thanks, Sam.
Check the audio. Sorry about that. It is amateur hour here at Here We Crow.
Oh, God.
Not at all, Lauren. You did way better than I would have.
Yes.
Welcome again, Mateo. If you don't mind us talking about yesterday's game, please jump in at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. Given I was actually there in person, so yeah, happy to.
Amazing.
Yes.
Chat.
You did come over for the weekend. How was your weekend in Adelaide? It's been a while.
Oh, it was lovely. It was lovely. Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, I just came over to visit family and friends, and I came down on the Sunday. And here's a confession. I don't think you know this, Lauren. I don't think any of the other hosts know it. It was the first time I've ever seen a game of footy at the Adelaide Oval.
Oh, wow.
Well,
So
Tell us how impressed you were with it.
well, it's the best stadium in the country, right? That's
Yes.
It really is, yeah.
Obviously.
So some listeners would know that I have been living over in Melbourne for a few years now with my wife, and we actually moved over in a very auspicious year in Crow's Law, 2017. And funnily enough, that was
Probably
the
good timing.
year it took us moving to Melbourne to really kind of get the footy bug, and in particular the Crows bug. Obviously, perfect timing.
Yes.
So, seen lots of Crows games in Melbourne, and obviously suffered through the rebuild like everyone. But Sunday was the first time I'd actually seen a game at the Adelaide Oval. I've been staying a few times actually. Sorry, just
yeah.
Well, we're still talking about me, of course, the most important. Back in the sort of the Crowbots era, the Neil Craig era, but I'd never made it to Adelaide Oval for a game of footy, so it was lovely to be there on Sunday.
Oh, very nice.
Cool.
Oh, well, yeah, glad you could enjoy it, and we got away with the win.
Yes.
Which is a segue back into chatting about the game. Yes. It was I think in the partway through the second quarter, I turned to Lauren. I'm like, oh, what is going on? Lauren's like, 28 points. We've come back before. We can come back again. And she was right.
Yeah.
Naz had given up in our group chat. And I'm sure lots of other people probably thought, what is going on? Are we going to be able to come back from here?
Well, he was telling us not to release the podcast.
Yes. He said if we lose, none of what he said on his podcast is going to be correct. So don't release it. But luckily we won, so we released the podcast last night. And I caught up with a Port fan this morning. He goes, as a Port supporter, what was going on with the umpiring yesterday? And I think we did definitely notice. I mean, we whinge about umpiring a lot, but there were just the lack of consistency.
Yeah.
Well, it just seemed to be key ones where it felt like a direct comparison that we're not paid in the same way.
Absolutely.
Ones that stand out was the Worrell spoil that gave away a shot at goal. The Mark Keane one where he spun around and handballed it out, which, on face value, you can say, most fans will be happy with holding the ball when you've been spun around, but they don't pay it consistently.
Well, I think it was the Worrell spoil that was him getting him high versus the Walker standing his ground and the ball going over the head.
Yeah, that one as well.
Giving away a free kick for blocking where it felt like maybe it was a similar action both times.
So there's plenty of that sort of stuff happening.
That one actually really annoyed me because did Tex even know that he was behind
He
him?
just stopped because the ball was going over his head.
Exactly.
So-
That was dumb.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
It was very
not too much
frustrating.
complaining about the umps.
How did you see it, Kate? You weren't sitting with us?
No, I wasn't. I was with some mates and my mum, and it was the first sort of quarter and a half. It felt like, and I think Nixie sort of put it this way in the presser, just that total lack of connection. Just you could see that we weren't leading to where we were kicking to. We weren't, many times I saw players turn away from the player with the ball, and I was like, that doesn't happen anymore. Why am I seeing this now? So yeah, that was really frustrating. And then we weren't sort of sharp enough on a lot of things, not just obviously our kicking skills and such, but also I feel like we were too slow to see leads when they were there, to like overrunning the ball or like stopping when the ball was still in play, on the ground, not getting up and, keeping on going. So there was lots that I felt like we just weren't on it in that first sort of quarter and a bit. And then, when they started kicking away, I think when I watched the rewatch last night, the commentator said something about this quarter there's been 4 goals to Melbourne and 33 possessions to 5. And I was like,
wow.
oh, man, no wonder we were so frustrated. That was it. But then I felt like the turnaround was really pleasing to see. Because, again, I think I would have last year, Lauren, just been like, there's no way we're coming back from this. This is just all downhill from here. And this time I wasn't panicking quite that much yet. Another goal I probably would have been. But, so it was just very pleasing to see us rectify that.
Matthew Nicks did actually address that in the press conference too after the game, kind of said, most fans in that 10 minutes would have gone, yeah, this is done. And it's funny because there were many, like obviously Nuz and like there was quite a few in the Adelaide Discord, as Mateo would know, like a few were like, oh yeah, this isn't happening. But I had the faith because we did it against Brisbane, and Brisbane are a much better team than the Dees.
Yes.
And we do have that home ground advantage. And the crowd, I thought, really did rally behind them. It was interesting. I know Mateo had a different experience with the crowd around him, so I'll let him talk about that. But I thought in our section there was a bit of like, there was that guy in front of us who was like, play better, stop playing crap. But then the cheers were kind of going up and like the mood was kind of good. It wasn't as sour as I think
Absolutely.
it could have been. But Mateo, you had a little bit of a different experience over where you were.
Yeah, where were you, Mateo?
It was interesting. So I was sat in that funny little section, the seated section in front of the hill. So I guess like in that kind of corner in the cathedral end, in front of the old scoreboard. And stuff like that, and sort of as Lauren alluded to, quite a bit of grumbling in my section, and I think obviously part of what I was relaying was just this actually quite new experience for me of actually being in a 99% Crows crowd, right? Whereas usually I'm at the MCG or at Marvel, where we are the sort of majority, right? And so it was interesting kind of hearing the people near me, get disgruntled, get tetchy, get a bit angry at some of the umpiring decisions. And I was sat next to on my right-hand side a gentleman who was just the classic kind of like, just kick it kind of guy. Like that's how he chose to sort of channel his frustration with the way that we were using the ball. And it's kind of funny, right? Because as Kate, I think you alluded to, that so much of the problem in the first quarter and a half was that, we were kicking it, but really badly, like straight to players. So I'm not really sure what just kicking it more would have achieved necessarily. But look, I mean, it's understandable, I guess, because I'm sure that almost everyone there yesterday would have expected maybe the kind of win that we had against Richmond or against St Kilda in round 1,
Yeah.
I was just going to say on the kicking, one of those big frustrations in the first half was just how we were making their defenders look so good. It wasn't.
We were hitting them lace out.
It was. I'm convinced it wasn't actually them intercepting. It was us kicking it straight to them.
Well, we went through a pattern where we kept kicking it short, and they were playing in front and getting the marks. And then we did a couple where we kicked it over the heads, and then suddenly they were playing behind, and we were kicking it to them. It was quite remarkable.
Yeah, I had someone in my section, it was a little bit more of a helpful comment than what you had, Mateo, but it was like, kick it at the defenders because then maybe someone else will get it.
Oh my God.
Right. I see. Aim for the Melbourne players and they'll miss.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Mateo, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say a couple of the other talking points. Obviously, Isaac with his 5 goals saved the day for us. Absolutely tore the game apart, which he was due for a big game like that, and it was really good to see. And then I mentioned at the start, obviously, Rochelle's injury. We all had big fears when the way it looked when he went down. It was kind of when he sort of ran off the field, you're like, okay, maybe it's not so bad, but they do that with ACLs at times. But today we found out 8 weeks, and I tried to hang up the Guernsey, but it fell off the wall, and I actually put it damaged the wall at the TA, unfortunately.
Don't say that on air.
Yeah. This can be used as evidence.
It's okay. They're doing renos.
I wasn't here at the time whenever Dan did whatever Dan did. So.
There were no witnesses.
I was ready to put my Guernsey out for Rash, but we'll keep that.
Yeah. Well, before Ben gets to the stats, I wanted to ask Mateo because Mateo himself is a bit of a stats man and loves the numbers and loves the analysis, and we're going to get into that a little bit later after this preview. But I want to ask you, Mateo, what did you think of that turnaround, and how do you think they worked it out in the middle of that game?
Thank you very much for giving me license to get nerdy. That's what I'm going to do. And I think sort of, obviously we've all had quite a lot of time to reflect, right? We've all gone through the sort of journey of disbelief, anger, I guess hope, and then the sort of satisfaction of the win. I think it was a really impressive comeback. And I think it's interesting. Something else that Nick said in the post-game conference was he alluded to the coaches, I presume, the line coaches and Murray Davis and himself, maybe in consultation with Dawson, or some of the leaders on the field, kind of, getting to work and solving a couple of tactical problems at halftime. But it actually felt like even by halftime we'd solved some of those problems. So the way I saw it, which obviously other people might have different views, was that the problems did start with our really poor ball use, particularly going inside 50, but quite a bit in defensive half as well. And I think Quirky in the chat made a point that I really agree with. It actually seemed that our forwards were just too back shoulder. And so maybe, Phil Thorpe, for example, thought that he could just out muscle May, but, that wasn't really working, especially by that kind of stuff. And then from there, what I think Melbourne did really, really well was they played that keepings off game. So they had something like 50 more uncontested marks in the first half. And that's pretty unusual for them. They don't really go for that short chip control method. My view was that they were really scared of our contested marking power. Adelaide are the number one team in the competition for contested marks differential. So, basically we are essentially the aerially the best team in the competition. We take the most contested marks. We take the most intercept marks. I think Melbourne really wanted to avoid that. And so they kind of went around us. They knew that we would sort of essentially play a zone, and they thought that they could have some luck, I guess, getting through our zone with short kicking. And they did that, and they did that really well. And frankly, I think the first half yesterday was a reminder that, clearly Melbourne are a team in decline, but they've also won at the Gabba this year. They should really have beaten Collingwood on the King's birthday. Yeah. They actually still occasionally give a performance that reminds you that they used to be a very, very good team. And so I saw a fair bit of that yesterday. But I think in terms of what we did in the comeback, we got really on top around the contest. Like the centre bounce clearances and stoppage clearances, we were really on top for the last 3 quarters of the game. And I think we sort of were happier to go 1-on-1 when we didn't have the ball. So we sort of forced Melbourne into taking more longer options. We didn't let them string together as many uncontested marks. And I think we sort of backed ourselves to win more of those contests, either sort of at ground level or in the air. And I think, sort of tactically that felt like the catalyst, but sometimes, moments are really important as well. And obviously we all sort of loved Dan Curtin's moment where he sort of floated across that marking contest.
Huge.
Ran past, I think it was Lever, and kicked it to Rankin, right? So, really that, I think, had a really important psychological impact as well, just to sort of galvanize everyone, get the crowd up a little bit. So that was really important too, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was right in front of where we were sitting. And just to watch him just burn off other players with his speed, you're like, I didn't realise he was quite that quick. So it was really impressive to see.
Do you have some things to add there numbers-wise, Ben?
Very little. If you're a stats man, get ready to be underwhelmed. It's been a fair old quick turnaround with a fair bit on today. But
that's true.
Really, what you were saying before, we don't normally lose the possession thing, but we lost it 392 to 325, and that was largely due to the uncontested possession. So they had 252 to our 191. Yep. And I think in that first quarter and a bit, it looked like as soon as they got it on the half-back, they were looking to kick it back into their own 50 and then, go over to the other side. And if that didn't work, we'll just keep coming back the other way. So they were very, very wary, I think, of kicking down the line to a contest where there's a turnover, where we have been so strong with our scoring. So our scores from turnover is what's winning us a lot of games, and they seemed to be very proactive about not letting that happen. I don't think I agree.
Yeah.
Where we turned it around is we put pressure on their disposal, and we didn't let them just have all that cheap possession as the game went on.
I was just going to add in our section as well, Ben and Lauren, there was some really great cheering for Rob and some of his moments in the game. I think it wasn't as tongue-in-cheek as it normally is. People were genuinely up and about.
Oh, he actually did stuff. It was, yeah.
And then obviously Lockie Jones, sorry, not Lockie Jones, that's the wrong team. Lockie Murphy. Lockie Murphy and his kamikaze effort on Jake Lever.
He struck me as someone who was trying very, very hard, almost a bit peddler style, where he's trying a little too hard and not maybe doing the smartest things, but the most courageous things, and it didn't really work out very well.
It didn't, but it made for some interesting moments.
Calm down, Lachlan. Calm down.
Definitely made for some interesting moments in the game. Should we get in some votes?
Sure.
What you got, Lauren? If you've got, I'll give you a second.
Yeah, no, I've got him. I gave 3 to Isaac Rankin, who we haven't even talked about yet. He was just absolutely on fire today. Yesterday. Today also probably, no doubt. I think Kingy would be very happy with his performance, because he's been wanting him to pull out a big one. And I think he played mostly forward, and we kind of needed him there, so that was good. There was a couple of moments though where I thought like he looked like he was going to hand it off when he, had a pretty good set shot, and I was like, please don't do that. Just settle down and kick the goal, and he managed to do that. So very big day for Rankin. 2 for Darcy Fogarty. I thought, someone said Darcy's been in hibernation, and it seems like he's just come out of the hibernation. So it was really good to see him up and about. And I gave 1 to Jake Saligo, who similarly has been relatively quiet, I think, but seemed to have a really good day in the midfield. It did look like in that first half we were kind of getting smashed in the midfield, but we somehow turned it around, and he got he got most clearances, I think, equal with James Peatling. So, he did really well.
Thanks, Lauren. Kate, what do you have?
I had trouble deciding again. I definitely gave 3 to Ranks for obvious reasons, and I think his work all over the ground, actually. There were times I saw him in defence, obviously midfield, so not just his finishing off the work, but all the pressure and effort he put in, I think, and he was definitely one of the more consistent players. I gave 2 to Solly, actually, similar reason. I felt like he... the midfield really did need to get their act together, and I think he was a big part of that. And also there were times where he or Bez were on Kasai Pickett when he was in the middle. I thought Solly really lifted lots of pressure acts and tackles, and they're the kinds of things I love to see. So I've been undecided on I think I'm going to give my 1 to Berry. He hasn't got the greatest sort of most outstanding stat sheet, but I feel like on the day I noticed what he was doing a lot, especially when he seemed to have a lot more composure early in the game when the rest of the team didn't seem to. And while it didn't seem to stack up in his numbers, I feel like he was involved in so many contests that worked out well for us, and he just keeps sort of becoming more and more solid. So I'm going to give Berry my 1 vote.
Nice one. Ben, what do you have?
So Rankin for 3. I went with Peatling for 2. I know it's controversial to do that, Dan, but
well, we're going to get to that.
You idiot.
Gotta be careful.
Going to get to that in a minute, Ben. Thanks.
And I did give 1 for Keys, despite apparently kicking a very controversial goal.
Yes.
I don't think it was touched.
It's very strange. I think it really depends who you support as to whether it was touched. Because
well, we obviously support the Crows, so who cares? Fuck off.
I had a clear line of sight. I mean, I was on the 3rd level, but not too far up the back. I knew it wasn't touched.
Yeah. Well, non-Crow supporters are saying it was a massive touch. It's deviated a mile.
Well, I've got 2020. I've got 2020 vision, Ben, and I could see from where we were sitting that was not.
All right. Well, I'm not going to go with that point of view. But,
I have slow-moed the slow-mo to look at that, and I'm like I can't see any because they're trying to say that McVie touched it, and I reckon Mateo's got an opinion on this, but
It's the guy,
I don't think.
holding the goalpost.
I don't even know who
swiping at
McVie
it.
is.
To me, like it would have.
He wasn't even there.
To me, if he'd swiped and actually hit the ball would have kind of tilted, so the top would have gone down a little bit, and it didn't really do that at all. And even if it was coming towards that camera angle, it still would have tilted slightly. Yeah. So it didn't do that, and I just thought, I thought it dropped.
Non-Crow supporters are like, no, that was an obvious touch, and the arc has stuffed it up.
And we would have won by 7 points still.
Someone was saying there was a behind the goal angle. I didn't see that at all.
No, there wasn't.
Like I'm like, what?
Someone
I think it was Tom actually. He's in the chat.
Someone said they didn't reverse it back far enough where the actual touch was, but I thought they had. But I don't know. It's a bit of a strange
when he
one.
went like this, that was all in the thing.
It just seems like a real cognitive dissonance. It really depends whether you like the team or not.
It's like,
well, we got it. We got it. It was ours. Counted. Well,
it's officially a goal.
Was that your votes? All your votes, Ben?
I only get the 3, don't I?
Yeah. Oh, well, I know I didn't actually get Mateo to prepare votes, but I reckon he could give me a 3-2-1 off the top of his head. What do you think?
Happy to go impromptu. I mean, ranking an easy 3.
Yeah.
I guess to digress a little bit, and I don't know if there'll be a chance to talk about it more broadly. I mean, Lord knows I enjoy digression. I think you could all see that.
Is it about the Keys goal again?
It's actually not about the Keys goal. No. I mean, I'm not convinced it was a goal, but I actually have, one of you said that you have 20/20 vision before. I actually have 20/23 vision from the Sydney game. I think it's actually just a bit of justice and a bit of karma.
Yes.
So I'm very happy.
That's a good call. I like that.
Technically touched, and that makes it even better. But about the ranking thing, look, clearly there's a discussion to be had about, how do we replace Rochelle up forward? And I think the most obvious answer, because, I think probably a lot of Crows fans aren't really convinced about the kind of, Murphy or Pedler or perhaps Taylor as those kind of, supplementary small forwards. I think Rankin is probably the answer. And obviously it's kind of a little bit, robbing Peter to pay Paul to take him out of the midfield a little bit more. But he's the best small forward in the AFL.
That's true.
And, I think in terms of his sort of danger and creativity and ball use, it's an interesting watch, I think, to see what we do for the rest of the home and away season. Anyway, sorry, I do digress. 3 to Rankin. I really like Peatling's game as well. For me, I think the 2 and 1 are probably between him and Saliga, who I thought, really had a good game as well. I just think Peatling's influence is so noticeable in person and particularly kind of close to ground level. He just gets to so many contests. His defensive actions are so good. And look, he's not really the guy you want kicking it inside 50, but his hands are really good. And his ability to weave in and out of traffic is really impressive.
Amazing.
Well.
Yeah.
He always gets you a high contact free kick or 2 every game, so that's handy as well. So he's been a great pickup.
Did he actually get one yesterday?
Maybe he did.
It might have been. I reckon it's the one game you can get one.
Yeah, probably. Honourable mention, I reckon, to Rob as well.
Interesting.
The man. Well, we're about to do our quad achiever, so let's.
Well, I got to wait. I haven't done my votes yet.
Sorry,
and
Dan.
did
Sorry.
Sam or Nuz send any votes in?
Nah.
Well, the elephant in the room is that Sam didn't show up this week to face me after calling me an idiot on air last week for giving votes to Peatling.
No,
Simon, a quiet achiever. Sorry, I couldn't even give him the quiet achiever without copying it. And I think I'm just going to stick my neck out, pun intended, for the Swan this week, Peatling. But I gave 3 votes to Rankin as well. These 5 goals. I gave 2 to Keys, 24 and 2 goals, 3. So definitely, obviously did the scoreboard thing. That's my words. Get my words out. He damaged the scoreboard.
He did.
And I gave 1 vote to Peatling.
Yes.
25 disposals, 6 clearances, and 483 metres gained.
Yeah, eat shit, Sam.
Hi, I'm Tyson Edwards.
You're such a quiet
I'm too busy trying to be a smart ass to get my words out. Lauren, who did you have?
James Peatling. It really is a bit of a 4th vote. It was between him and Solly, but I ended up giving it to Solly because Solly had more tackles than James. But as Mateo said, like Jimmy's ability to weave through the traffic and just that also, like, he did that to ground handball to Rankin in the
Yes.
forward 50 and then Rankin kicked the goal. Like, that is just epic shit to me. So he got my quiet achiever this week and he is, like, this close to getting in the votes.
I had a question about that. I don't know if Ben or Mateo know the answer to this, but if you hand pass it at the ground and then it bounces up to a player, does that count as a
Yeah.
Is that a efficient disposal?
I don't know about efficiency, but it's definitely a
Well,
disposal.
It's definitely a disposal,
I
but
assume if it ends up with your teammate before anyone else, it's counted as
it's clearly
efficient.
intentional.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
Mateo,
was
do you
very
want to
I don't
weigh in
know
on
if you
this?
have any ideas, Mateo?
Sorry, I briefly had myself on mic because my cat is using the litter tray behind me. So timing.
Didn't want any audible.
Do it all on my mic. I mean, I guess the answer, sorry, as to whether that's an effective handball is who the next player to get possession is, I guess, right? So
Yeah.
that Peatling
Right.
handball to Rankin, the underground one, would absolutely have been an effective handball because I reckon it went straight to ranks.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
And, like, that's netball areas. And, you know,
Yes,
I'm
it's
like,
true.
I'm into that. So,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, very good game by James.
Kate,
I'm going to give it to Fog. Again, it's probably a bit more of a
Bit of a loud one.
fourth vote. Yeah, but you know, I mean, early in the game, again, I thought he had some real good composure, particularly like playing up the ground and delivering it inside 50 in an actually effective way when we were struggling to do that. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Fog, and Sam's not here to criticise me,
No,
so for my fourth vote.
it's all right. It's funny that he's not here to criticise.
All of us, yeah.
Ben?
Speaking of not here to criticise me, I did give it to Rob.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
thought-
you took your chance.
I'd say he took his chance. He
Rob
took-
or Sam?
No, Rob. He took 7 marks. He, to a degree, quelled Gawn's influence. Often, they didn't seem to really like each other because often Gawn would be marking our half-back
Kicking it
line,
to Rob.
hand passing
Rob
to someone
was
who kicks it
way
straight
down.
to Rob. So it seemed to be, if you're going to intercept, well, I'll intercept too. So
There was a few times I was like, who the hell's on Gorn? He's just rolling around.
And then you'd see Rob pop up the other end.
And I think in the past we've been pretty critical of some taps that have gone to some unfortunate positions, but he did do some really nice lay down taps to players who then got a nice clearance and got us into the forward 50. So
Well, surprisingly, we did win the hitouts.
yeah,
Yeah.
By
good
quite,
at- he's
signif-
good
by
at-
quite
And the
significant
clearances
margin.
and-
He's
Yeah.
good at a hit out, so and some of them were quite good. So I think even if Sam was here, he's worth.
he'd give Rob some props.
He's worth.
I think
worth it
maybe
for
we
this
need to
game.
extend Rob's waiting for a contract period, like so they can just keep playing like this.
I think
for-
maybe we'd put him on the Justin Longmuir contract where you can be like sacked at any moment.
just rolling,
yeah.
rolling contract.
I did. Well, I thought he could have gotten a goal there because he did take a mark, like just
he did
probably
go
around
for
the
it.
45-meter
Yeah,
mark.
he needed to have a bit more.
Dish it off to
Just have
Max.
some confidence,
I
mate.
reckon,
this is
I reckon
where
about
the-
30, 35 is his range.
Well, that's where the quiet achiever comes in. You know, he knows his limitations. He'll get the handball off to someone else.
Mateo, do you have a quiet achiever for the game? Did you pick out anyone that you thought doesn't get the accolades that they probably should have?
I mean, I guess the boring answer is Rob, isn't it? Right? And he
I
obviously
thought it was
has
quite
been
interesting. Thank you very much.
a whipping boy for a lot of the fan base, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think he's mostly been really perfectly good this season. And, you know, he's never really going to be the same caliber of player as Max Gawn or, you know, Luke Jackson, but he's a perfectly adequate guy when he's in this form. You know, he's marking the ball well again. You know, he tapped it to our players, which is a great bonus when he can do that. So I think, you know, a Rob like that is absolutely good enough, you know, to
I
help
like
us get where we wanna go, I reckon.
I like the description. Perfectly adequate guy for Rob. That's
Well, it's a ceiling we weren't sure he had.
that's right.
I totally agree.
And just to really drive home the point, I had him for my quiet achiever as well. I did a little bit of a comparison just for, you know, to find out how well he did against Gawn, because at the game I felt that he did pretty well considering how good we know Gawn is, and you know he's had some good games against guys like TDK earlier in the year as well. And you know he had 7 marks versus Gawn's 5. He had 4 meters gained versus Gawn's 164. But he also had 1 goal assist and Gawn had 0.
He did handball off a lot. He didn't do a lot of kicks.
4 meters gained.
Well, he did
How's that possible?
Well, he did one kick where he kicked backwards into our forward 50, and then he handballed most of them. So,
But, nonetheless, I think he definitely held his own, and he did some good things, some good marking, a few little, gutsy kicks that he normally wouldn't go for, which were scary, but he did them well, so you can't really complain.
Good on you, Rob.
Yeah, good on you, Rob.
All right. Well, look, we did bring Mateo on. We thought we'd get Mateo on the game review because we do love a bit of analysis and we're not that great at it. Ben's definitely the top tier of echelon of the game analysis, but Mateo is the man. And if you don't subscribe to One Percenters, I would get onto that because Mateo is fantastic analysis, and he did a big season preview of all of the teams, and obviously he is a Crows nuffy, so Crows were number one. They came in first, and what we wanted to do as a bit of a mid-season review, and I know it is a couple of weeks late because we've already had the bye round, but I just wanted to talk to Mateo about what his predictions were at the start of the year and how we've come in, what are we now, round 18?
Yes.
Coming up. Where are we sitting there compared to his predictions? Now, Mateo, in your season preview for the Crows, I forgot to write notes today because I was very busy, but you did mention that our defensive unit, while good, we were giving up too much score from the defensive unit and we weren't really scoring from that defensive half. I think it's safe to say that has definitely changed. One of the other things you brought up was our contested ball, an aerial ball in the air, and that's something we've also improved. So from your season preview, what do you think are the things that have surprised you that we've really done well that you perhaps predicted?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about how to kind of capture my thoughts in a semi-concise way while kind of getting ready for tonight's show, and it actually kind of feels like our team now. It feels actually like a blend of the best bits of 2023 and 2024. In the sense that in 2023, we're obviously just such, an amazing attacking team, right? The highest scoring team in the competition. But in some ways that felt unsustainable. I think mostly because of the season the Tex had, which, it was just an astonishing season in 2023, right? But
Amazing,
also,
yeah.
I'm sure every Crows fan can kind of remember the experience of there were lots of games in 2023, even a lot of the ones we won, where it didn't really feel in control. It felt a little bit unsustainable. We were kicking so accurately, kicking goals from the boundary. Tex was plucking balls out of the ruck inside 50 and kicking goals. And then in 2024, obviously that was not a fun year and a lot of things went wrong. And, one of the big things that went wrong, obviously, was Philthorpe going down with that knee injury in pre-season. And I think that was probably part of what really changed the way that we decided to play. And, there's been a lot of conjecture about, why we sort of slowed down our ball movements so much and became so much more conservative when we had the ball, went up the wings a lot more. And it obviously didn't work, right? But I think there were signs even then that defensively things were beginning to click a little bit more as well. It's funny, given that the kind of the best game of last season was probably the Essendon win at Marvel, which was total chaos, right? Just no control, no defensive control at all. But I think over the course of the year, you could sort of see that. And, after the first month of this year, I thought, oh, okay, this is like 2023. But instead of, just relying on Tex, everyone's kicking goals, but I'm still not sure if we can defend. And obviously what's happened after that has been, it's actually been a crazy change in our profile, right? We've gone from being by far the best attacking team to a decent attacking team while also becoming maybe the best defensive team in the comp. And that is an amazing turnaround that, I think, frankly, we have to give credit to the coaches
Absolutely.
for that. And I don't think I really thought we were capable of that because it sort of wasn't. I guess whenever I sort of write these season previews, and yeah, Lauren was right. I wrote 18 of them, one for every AFL team, but obviously I was most excited about the Crows one.
Dedication, my friend.
Epic.
Yeah, well, yeah, I sort of online I have to hide my Crows nuffiness a little bit, but guys, and on the Discord I don't, which is much nicer.
Yeah,
but I always try to think about, what is the sort of theory of this team being good, And that's always the question I sort of ask myself when I'm writing these previews. And I guess the sort of theory of the Crows that I had was that if we were going to have a good year, it was going to look a fair bit like 2023 in terms of attacking profile. So lots of defensive slingshot, lots of quick transition out the back, Ben Keys from the goal square, punting it into the river, or the cathedral, something like that. And that's we've sort of seen that. But I think our ability to become a much more front half team, by which I mean sort of not allowing the opposition to get past halfway because of what we're doing defensively, what our forwards are doing defensively and our wingers. I didn't really anticipate that. And I think a really important part of all of this and making this all stick has been Dan Curtin. Like just a couple of days ago, I learnt that since he was moved to the wing in, I think, round 11 or so, Curtin's taken more forward half intercept marks than any player in the AFL. So he's number one for
Wow.
that. And that is just such a valuable mark, right? Because often an intercept mark, you're taking it inside your defensive 50, right? It's Mark Keane, it's Joshua Worrell. But Dan's taking them on the wing, and he's taking them at half forward. And obviously that just makes it so much easier to control games and score from there. And so our ability to make it really hard for teams to get out of their defensive half by clogging up the corridor and then just having this, and I think some credit should go to Isaac Cumming here as well, because he's not, had maybe the impact that some fans wanted, but he's tall, he's pretty good in the air, and he gives a good contest. I think our ability to just, block teams from defensive exits has been much better than I could have imagined, because I think heading into this season, I was a little bit worried about whether the 3 tall setup would work defensively, whether we would allow rebounds.
Everyone was having that
exactly right.
worry,
And,
I think, yeah.
That's what Ken Corns was saying, right? And that's sort of what everyone was saying, because most people don't really know anything about the Crows. But I think our ability to actually retool a little bit and to sacrifice a little bit of attacking output for becoming a much more defensively solid team. I mean, that actually just feels like the kind of profile of a team that could win the premiership. And look, do I think we'll win the premiership this year? No, I don't think that we'll win the premiership this year. But do I think it's amazing that we're kind of a chance? Like, I absolutely do. And I think, clearly supporters have just been, really, really kind of burnt and damaged by the last 7 years. And there's a lot of people
Big time.
don't particularly rate the coach, right, and the coaching setup, etc. But I think we have to give a lot of credit to the turnaround. And there are other things, right?
Yeah.
Like we've had a reasonably good fixture. We've been okay in terms of injuries, I guess, until Rashes on Sunday. But a lot of it is, I think, that we found a system that harnesses the pretty unique strengths that we actually have on the list. And
Absolutely.
it's a pretty exciting time to be a Crows fan, I reckon.
It is.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Ben, are you chomping at the bit there?
No.
You look like you want to say something.
No, well, I just think like we're getting that really good wing intercept marking, but then if they get past that, then they've got to get past like a Worrell, Hinge, Keane, who are also really doing well at those intercept marks. So I think, it's not that long ago we were worried that was our most inexperienced line, and how we're going to possibly be okay in that area, and now we're
I think we were even like at that point, like Mateo just brought up with the coaching structure, like Jack Hompsch is like quite a young coach, young defensive coach. And obviously Scott Burns went from the defensive coaching role to the forward coaching role, which we were all a bit like, because obviously James Rahili, who we all thought was fantastic, left.
Yeah.
And we were quite concerned, and I know Sam was quite concerned about Scott Burns being the forward coach, but it really does, they really have managed to make it work.
Yeah.
And, another big point Mateo made was, it's the 3 tools, but it's everyone else
Yes.
who is like they're around the ball and able to kick goals. And it is just such a widespread, which I don't think any of us really predicted, especially after Tex's big year. We kind of thought, all right, well, this is a man who's in control. And, obviously age has gotten to him a little bit, and, he's still playing a role, but, they are relying on other players to kind of kick those goals. Mateo, I'm interested. You said you don't think we're going to win the flag, and I wouldn't expect us to win the flag either. I think it's going to be a pretty hard sell. But what do you think the Crows are going to be? What do you think they can do from here to maybe make the GF even?
Yep. Well, win the prelim, Lauren. That's what they'll do to make it.
Well, that's the easy answer.
And before that,
How do we get there?
That's more expert analysis like that. I guess the theory of the case is find a way to finish in the top 4, and I think it's absolutely there, right? I mean, I think a lot of the the kind of the statistical models have us slightly over 50% to make top 4 at the moment, and that's not factoring in Rochelle's injury. Obviously, I imagine that'll go down below 50% if we lose to the Bulldogs on Saturday, because they're one of our direct competitors for that spot. So I think it begins with making the top 4. I don't really see a way that we play a home qualifying final from here. I think Collingwood and Geelong probably have the top 2 spots sewn up. But frankly, I think there's pretty good evidence that we could give either of those teams a game at the MCG, if that's where a qualifying final is played. Clearly of course, it's very frustrating. We never beat Collingwood, but we always get kind of close, right? So who knows what could happen, in a final? Who knows what kind of injuries both teams would be carrying into a game like that? And then, the prospect of a home semi-final or something like that, I would, against a GWS, a Fremantle type side, I think we would have, again, assuming that we're reasonably healthy, I would give us a really good chance of winning a game like that. And then a prelim, look, I think the margins of prelims are often so small, aren't they? Right? It's so often, a goal or a couple of goals or something like that. Maybe we just have a day out and something that we are capable of, obviously from time to time, is all of our forwards kicking really straight, right? Because at their best, they're all excellent kicks for goal. And I think that's the kind of thing that in September can really make a difference as well, right? If you actually outperform, your expected score by 20 or something like that, that's how you win a prelim. So, I mean, again, I don't think we're at that very top echelon of teams in the competition. I probably do think there's a little bit of a distance between Collingwood and Geelong, and I don't really know what to make of Brisbane or the Bulldogs, to be honest. I mean, Brisbane clearly have the ones on the board, but they do seem like a weaker team this year for whatever reason. Maybe it's a little bit of a hangover.
Unpredictable there.
Yeah, the Bulldogs remind me a lot of us in 2023, where they can put a score on anyone, but I just don't really trust them when it's time to defend. But yeah, I mean, look, there are 2 games left out of the 7 that we really should be winning against North and West Coast. There's another showdown, a home one this time, and then 4 of those kind of 50-50-ish games. Those are really big games against other finals teams.
See, Dan, it's fine to call them 50-50 games.
50-40 games, 50-50, something like that, right? I mean, the good thing, obviously, is that most of the 3, I think, of those 4 games are at home, and that can make a big difference, right?
So if in the qualifying, if say Geelong are second, we're third, do we have to then go play in Geelong, do you reckon, for that first final?
It's a great question. I don't know what the AFL would do, and I don't know how much of a precedent there is. I mean,
surely not in that shithole.
Well, Freo had to go play a final down there one year. So
Yeah,
I would be surprised if they didn't make us play in Geelong.
I'll find a way, Geelong.
That would be fucking bullshit.
I'm sure Andrew Dillon will go down for a one-on-one with Brad Scott about it. Chris Scott, sorry.
Brad Crouch, Brad Scott, Chris Scott. Which one?
Someone from Geelong. We'll talk to Bailey Smith and he'll tell him what to do.
If that's going to happen, we might as well finish 4th so we can play Collingwood.
Yeah, exactly.
Joshy wants to know, Mateo, are you worried about Tex in the finals considering his age and body, or if he's more tuned for finals footy? Because, I mean, he is one of the only players that have played finals footy in the squad.
I basically, sometimes I feel like I change my mind on Tex on a quarter-to-quarter basis. At the moment. I mean,
fair.
Lauren and other people who are in the Discord would have, seen that after the first quarter of the Richmond game, I was, not being very rational maybe about Tex. I was like, I think he's done. I think he's cooked.
Yeah.
But he actually recovered and bounced back and had a pretty decent last 3 quarters of that game. And I think he was, definitely in our top 10, maybe in our top 5 on Sunday. I think the issues with Tex are exactly sort of the ones that Joshy raised. I mean, athletically, clearly he has declined quite a lot from his peak. Hello, Heathcliff.
Said your cat.
I was like, wow, where'd that meow come from?
Special guest.
So look, I mean, but increasingly in AFL, right? Teams defend as a single unit, right? So if the coaches have confidence that we can kind of compensate for the fact that Tex, bless him, can't really run, and that we can kind of make up for that with guys like, Keys, Neil Bullen, that wing intercept marking like we were talking about earlier. I think he's still probably best 22, pardon me. I think that, longer term, clearly, I think there's a question about what does that third tall forward spot look like. But I think there's kind of been an underrated transition that's happened this season that's sort of been a little bit lost, I reckon, because, we're all kind of caught up in winning games, that Tex isn't the number one guy anymore. And there were so many questions, I think, that all of us were asking about how we were going to transition away from Walker being the main guy up there. And I think that's happened relatively smoothly, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Well, it wasn't that long ago we were going, is Steelthorpe going to have to be our next ruckman?
Yes.
But he's certainly well and truly in the forward line now. So he's definitely a big key cog. Fogg's coming well. It's probably a matter of what structure we go with if we don't have a Tex next year, whether we keep tall or mix it up a bit.
It is going to be interesting indeed, and an exciting time for Crows fans, I think. So
Definitely.
I'm keen now. I just wanted to give you some breaking news.
Oh.
Apparently the AFL has confirmed that Judd McVie did touch the ball for the Ben Keys goal.
Can't overturn it now.
Apparently he clearly touched the ball. I still can't see it, but
Well, they can send an apology Melbourne's way, I feel.
Yes.
Melbourne will get an
Unfortunately
apology.
for them-
They'll get a great TV fixture for next season.
Yeah,
that's right.
exactly.
And unfortunately for them, they weren't only there wasn't 1 point in it. So
And trying to get into the finals. Yeah.
So it's all good.
They
They'll
can
live.
accept the answer, the please explain back from the AFL
Exactly.
and just stick that in their pipe and smoke it
100%.
like we've had to a number of
I
times.
need to look at that footage again. I just haven't seen the clearly touched part. But
Yeah.
it's, as I said, if you're not a Crow supporter, most people say he's definitely touched it.
I had a question for Mateo.
Go for it, Kate.
Mateo, I'll fess up now and say that I'm not the best maths/stats/numbers person, despite the fact I had to study stats at uni. And I can pay attention to kind of player individual stats, and I look at team stats more game to game. What did we win? What did we lose? But from reading, through your pre-season preview, I was just thinking, what would someone like you suggest a bit more of a ignoramus like me when it comes to these things pay a bit more attention to in terms of team stats and trying to get a handle on the game from kind of a bit of a broader perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for what it's worth, I'm not, especially good at stats or maths or anything like that. But yeah, I do try because I think it's a great way
Don't be
to learn
modest.
a little bit more about
You
what's
don't
going
have
on.
to be great to be better than me, so it's all good.
Fair enough. I think that something that I'm really happy has kind of become more of a part of sort of, like the mainstream footy broadcasts, you'll hear Channel 7 and Fox talking about more as scores from turnover and scores from clearance or scores from stoppage is a really big one. Sort of based on the idea that there's actually only kind of essentially three ways you can score in footy. You can score directly from the centre bounce, or you can score. No, sorry, I've got that a little bit wrong. You can score from a kick in, you can score from a stoppage, or you can score from a turnover. And kind of every type of score ultimately comes from one of those three sources. And scores from stoppage, look, clearly that matters because clearly what you're doing sort of in the contest and in stoppages matters. I think, clearly that's a stat that matters a lot more than just clearances. Like I think that and I think we're seeing this a little bit, right? We're kind of moving past this idea that, like this player got 10 clearances. They must have had an amazing game. Well, yeah, but what do those clearances achieve? But I think that basically the kind of if footy has a killer stat today, then it's probably scores from turnover, both your ability to create them and then your ability to defend them. And Adelaide, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I've got some stats up on my second screen here, so I will just double check to make sure, while Heathcliff also wants to have his say. Sorry, gang.
Heathcliff is a great name for a cat. That's brilliant.
For the video listeners, I think he just quite enjoys the sound of my voice, which is good for the ego. So Adelaide are actually number one in the AFL for scoring from turnovers this season, and they are fourth for defending scores from turnover. So that together is just an extremely good profile. It's second only to Collingwood in terms of that differential, right? Like how many scores we're creating from turnovers, and then how many scores are we conceding from turnovers, and that just gives you, I think, a picture of a team that, I don't think there's much luck involved in what the Crows are doing at the moment. Maybe there are questions. Again, what happens after Tex? What happens if next season we get more injuries, or if teams kind of get to work on us tactically a little bit and do maybe more of a Melbourne in the first quarter and a half, what they were doing, perhaps a little bit more of that uncontested marking, keeping it away from aerial contests. But, statistically, Adelaide show up as a really strong and competitive team this season.
And just, looking at that scores from turnover, it perfectly mirrors the top 9 and the bottom 9 in terms of who's averaging the most and least. So, anything below Hawthorn, who are sort of 9th, anything below that is a team that it's not going to make finals this year. So, it's certainly a very important thing that we've done well at this year.
Excellent.
That's it.
Thank you.
Well, in wrapping up, Mateo, just wanted to put you on the spot and say, out of those last 7 games, we've currently got 11 wins. How many are we going to finish on?
I'm an optimist, so I think we're finishing on 16 wins. So we're going 5-2 from here.
Yep.
Just as long as we beat Hawthorn.
Please, God.
That's
those,
maybe my number one wish for the rest of the season. That home game last year was so bad, and the game down was so annoying.
That run of 3 games at home, Suns, Port, Hawks, we could easily win all 3, but they're definitely going to be shaping out our final spot.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So what would that leave us with? 16 wins. I think we've got the highest or the second highest percentage in the competition, and maybe that'll be enough.
Second highest at the moment.
We'll see.
Wow.
And Lauren and I were talking about Collingwood as well on the way. It'd be great to beat Collingwood at some point, but do we want to beat them now or in the finals? Because I don't know if we can do both, so we'll see.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mateo. Thank you for joining us tonight. Very valuable. You know a lot more than us, which is not hard, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Mateo. It's been fantastic.
It's such a pleasure to be on. It's one of my favorite podcasts. So yeah.
Thanks
so much. And don't forget to subscribe to 1%ers, and it's on Substack. Is that right?
Yeah, 1%ers.net.au is the URL.
Get onto it. Very valuable information on all your favourite teams.
Excellent. Thanks again,
you,
Mateo.
Mateo. See you soon, buddy.
See ya.
See you guys.
All right. Oh, I'd see you, Heathcliff, as well.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Bye, Heathcliff.
If we can, I reckon we should fire up Sam's segment and do a bit of justice.
Oh, shit.
Without the great man.
While you're doing that, though, Quirky raised a really good question, which is my big question is whether I keep my Whopper goal, my Whopper for Fogs goal.
Yeah, I want to know if that
was the Whopper goal.
Surely you can't take back.
I think it's a Whopper Junior point, I'm pretty sure.
I think it was confirmed by someone in the Discord that they checked their app and it was in there. So we're all good.
Amazing.
It's almost like it doesn't mean anything.
All right, we ready?
If you want to know what's in the spring, get into Rowan Jarman.
Just topically, I just want to kick off with a good. Lauren and I were discussing the Storms at Hungry Jack's, and Lauren's had a bad experience with it. So we won't go into that because that's not part of the good segment. But after that discussion, I did go and this is what we're talking about. I did go and get an Nutella Storm last night.
Oh, yeah?
It was really good.
Really?
Good. Russ Eats on Instagram was right. He gave it 10 out of 10.
Did you get a lot of Nutella in it?
Yeah, and it goes hard like Ice Magic. Sort of.
This is if I rate
like
it.
not really hard, but like, not legit Ice Magic, but it's still pretty good.
I actually had one last night too, Dan.
What was for it? Did you like it?
I liked it, but I got it. I was, Mum and I were going home from the game. And so I dropped her off at home. And then by the time I got home, it was, hard. and there was some in the bottom, but it was solid.
Yeah.
So I had to scrape it out and I couldn't eat it with the ice cream. So
Yeah.
I'm like, my tip would be eat it immediately. Don't let it refreeze.
Don't let it freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you like your storms, it is pretty good.
Well, I'm just bitching because I got a Biscoff storm the other week, and I love my Biscoff, and I've had good Biscoff storms before, but this one had no Biscoff in it. It just had the crumbs on the top, and I'm
What's the point of that?
digging in the cup, and I'm like, where? And because it wasn't a clear cup, so I couldn't see it either. So I was
Yes.
just digging around, what the hell? Where is my Biscoff?
That's not good enough.
I also had two more goods before we get to yours, Lauren. Ben delivering hot donuts at the start of the game was always a highlight.
Yes,
Thanks,
look,
Ben.
I will let you know, Ben, it does really stress me out saving the seats for that long.
I bet.
So if you could just
Yeah.
get there a bit earlier.
Oh, well, if the
you softened-
escalators didn't break down and
Yeah,
they
that's
wouldn't let you up.
You did
As
soften
if no
the
one
blow.
could ever
You know there's
possibly
stairs.
walk up an escalator that's not moving.
The donuts
It
softened
wasn't
the
so
blow.
much that, it's just that because no one could go up that way, it meant getting through was really hard. The
It's
lady
true.
okay.
Okay.
checking the backpack was very vigilant this time. It was even going over the bridge was really busy. It felt like a 50,000 crowd. It was quite slow getting in.
Yeah, right.
I think there was another event on because I walked in through the military parade ground, and there was some just a small little sort of fair of kids' rides and stuff set up, and there were quite a lot of people kind of walking in that direction. So I feel like there were two things on in the same area at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Ben,
my-
just 10 minutes earlier next time would be
Yeah.
perfect.
Uh,
I know
all
it
right.
wasn't your fault.
I'll get you to give Henry a call to just
Hurry him up.
put a flame under him.
Next
to
time, just
get
send him
going.
up. Just
Yeah.
send him up.
Don't
next
throw
time.
you
There
can't throw
was-
Henry under the bus.
There was a lot of threats. If you do not get dressed now,
Oh.
I will leave the house and
If you
you
need-
will not be coming.
If you need me to make a phone call, I'll do it, Ben.
right.
Because I tell you what, when that section fills up and you've just got your measly little scarf draped over the seats, it starts getting stressful because people are
Yeah.
they're gawking, they're looking, and they're I mean, the scarf does work,
Yeah.
but I just don't want a confrontation with anyone because I got there really early and I came here early. I'm here. I've got my seats. My friends are coming. Do not make me have a fight with you about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I still feel proud enough that I'm keeping the clean record of getting there before the bounce. It was close.
It was
close.
this close.
It was
Getting
still
finer
before
and
the
finer.
bounce.
It was.
The final good I have, and this is a simple one that I'm sure people can relate to, but it's general. People in cars speeding behind you and then getting caught at the lights or behind other cars. This has been happening a lot to me lately.
That's because you drive 5Ks under the limit.
Hey,
Dan.
come on. I had someone in the city in the 50 zone swerve around me and get pissed off, only to get caught at the cars in front, and I just sailed past them and was like, "Fuck you."
That's
It
how
was
you work
fantastic.
it.
Yeah.
My good is that Danielle Ponta won the NAIDOC Sportsperson of the Year in the NAIDOC Awards on the weekend.
Well done, DP.
Congratulations, Danielle. That's fantastic. And happy
That's so
NAIDOC to
good.
everyone.
Absolutely.
That's the only good I had.
I had a good. My good was Keezy's neighbour. Did
Oh,
you see
yes.
that? His little neighbour,
JD?
who I think has some kind of a medical heart condition, incurable sort of thing. He's his neighbour, and Keezy brought him, he got brought out onto the ground after the win, went down into the room, sang the song with the guys, and had some photos. And yeah, it was just, and then I think there was the most precious part was Keezy, and I think it was Worrell brought him back out, to be back with his family who were over the fence, and Keezy saying goodbye. He says, "See you at home." He's the nicest guy in the AFL, clearly.
love it.
So
Nice.
that was very precious. Yes, I thought.
Love that.
Good work, Keezy. Anything from you, Ben?
No.
Next.
Fun.
Footwear sacrificed at half price and equipment slashed to half price. Rowan Jarman's huge half price sale. Don't miss it.
Actually, sorry, just
Oh,
very quick.
hell, Ben.
Walking home.
is this a good?
Yes. Walking back with
Sam.
Henry
I'm listening.
Yep.
Don't worry about that.
from the game to the car park. I'm a little ways away, and just coming across a bunch of Illuminate stuff. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
the
that
museum was all
Oh, yep.
lit up in different things. There was big ball things that changed colour, and that was all very exciting for Henry. So there you go. There's my good.
Very good.
Bonus.
I'm glad you got that in, Ben.
No worries.
I had three bads. One was Rash's knee injury, which we talked
Yeah.
about. 2 goal reviews in general. There was that.
Well, they're definitely in the bads.
There was one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. No, they're not in bads for that. But there was one I sent footage around in the group chat where it was like a meter over the line. The umpire's standing right there looking at it in another game, looking straight at it and calls for a goal review. I'm like, what? Like, in what world? Did you not see how far over the line that was?
Oh, the bad of that is that, like, I went hard on a post on X under the Huey Crow account, and now I'm about to get 20 zillion notifications of people telling me I'm a fuckwit. So, yeah.
Yes, Lauren's going to own that. We're all fuckwits.
Nah, I'm not doing that. I don't reckon it was touched.
We still won, so it doesn't
That's
matter.
it. I don't care.
And we still would have won even without that
We're
goal.
taking the
Absolutely.
points.
And the last one I had is the poor social media team at the Crows, and probably any team, but some of the comments from keyboard warriors and just people in general with no humour. There's the post where they had Tex and Filthy playing squash.
Yeah.
And the club just wrote the caption, "Can't wait for the Tex and Filthy doubles duo at the 2026 Oz Open." And some of the comments, I've just taken some of them down. And we're down by 5 goals. Nice. All that to lose by 40. Unique. Players have been doing this thing for years. Probably start next week with a few footies.
Gee, anyone who calls you a fuckwit, Lauren, just send them in that direction.
Like, just have some bloody joy, people. Seriously.
Well, it's just like, why are you taking the caption so seriously?
Yeah.
Like, get a life. Anyway, I've got some bads. The time slot for the upcoming Gold Coast game, 4:10 on a Sunday at Adelaide Oval. 2:45 was bad enough.
Have some joy, Lauren.
Why the hell are we playing at 4:10 on a Sunday?
Yeah,
that
that's
is
shit.
absolutely shocker. And that is no doubt going to be a big game because obviously
Yeah.
we have something to prove against the Suns and we
And
want to
Hardwick.
and Hardwick, and we want to bury them for that
Yeah.
last game. And the crowd is going to be absolutely abysmal for that one. Like, that is shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are they thinking?
I think the only silver lining in that is that we won't have as many quarters with players looking straight into the sun like they
Well,
did
that is true,
at the
'cause
game this week.
That
Yeah.
is a shocking time slot for Adelaide Oval too,
And
2:45.
I've had my Launceston long shadow theories in the past, and you think about when did we play our worst? When we had that sun very low, looking straight into it, we went to water. Suddenly we get some shadows that are covering the whole ground, and we can play football again. Don't discount it.
All right.
I'm not.
It's up there with the humidity issues.
My next bad is Rankin trying to hand off the easy goals.
Yeah.
Mate, just kick him. Just kick him.
You're on
We've
fire.
already mentioned that. People standing up in their seat when the player's directly in front. There was
Yeah.
this woman in front of us
yeah.
who was sitting down the end, and they had all the kids there because obviously kids went free on the weekend. But she just kept getting up and coming down to the end of their section where their family was to come and get shit out of the backpack. She managed to time it every single time the football was directly in front of us. I was going crazy. I was literally about to push her over.
Absolutely.
Stop, just sit down. If you need stuff out of the bag, get it once, go sit down. Stop getting up. Oh my God, you stupid woman. You're driving me nuts.
Yeah.
Just sit down. Anyway,
Absolutely.
the worst thing for me this week was Broden Kelly getting a shoe into the rooms after the game, into the Adelaide Crows change rooms. This man is a Melbourne Demons fan. And I'm sorry, but have we ever been invited into the rooms after the game?
No.
We do this podcast week in, week out with no money, no sponsorship. We haven't had a player interview for months. And why is Broden Kelly, a Melbourne fan, allowed to waltz in the room and start interviewing players? That is
Wow.
bullshit, Adelaide Crows. You need to do better for us. I'm sorry. That is
And
the
what
worst.
kind of name's Broden anyway, isn't it? Braden or Brandon.
And I
That's
know,
it.
like, there's some Broden fans out there, but honestly, I do not find him funny at all.
I've never heard of this man.
Yeah, neither have I.
He's the guy from Arnie Donna, and he has the Footy with Broden Kelly podcast. But seriously, I am annoyed by that, and I think that we are owed one.
I agree.
Honestly, that is a shocker.
The chat agrees, I can
Yeah.
tell.
Thanks, Bud.
I just had a small one. My favourite coach, Dimmer Hardwick, going hard at the AFL about umpire contact. And
Oh yeah,
how,
because he thought that
they'll-
was directed straight at them.
There'll
That's
be
why.
hell to pay if Rao is blah, blah, blah. And then you look at the footage. Rao uses the umpire
Gotcha.
he stands behind him at stoppage and he'll be against his player, and then he'll basically wait for the umpire to come at him and then go one side of the umpire while the other guy has to go the other side of the umpire.
Yeah.
And we wonder why he's continually hitting the umpire.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's using the umpire as a tactic, and then they're having a go at the AFL for cracking down on it. It's like, that's fair enough. You don't kamikaze play chicken with the umpire. You know that is causing the impact. So, but high and mighty old Dimmer, he's like, well, if the AFL goes through with this, they'd better watch out.
I reckon
Well, it sounds like they're to
that's
blame.
got Warren Treadray areas about it. It's like, I know exactly what's happening, but I'm going to try to manipulate it to
Oh, yeah.
my own
He's
cause.
so used to coaching a club that means
Yeah.
so much to Victoria.
Yeah.
And he assumes that that'll carry over because he's highly paid at Gold Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
Dimmer gives me the irrits.
He can get stuffed, Ben.
And just chuck him in the bad for all time.
You got any bads, Kate?
Actually, I don't. No bads for me
That's
this
good.
week.
Yeah, we can end it on me being annoyed.
Yeah,
by,
I'm on board with that
not
one.
getting some extra things from the Crows. Come on, guys, let us in. Let us into the rooms. I want to hear the boys sing the song.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
about time we had an interview. We're working on it, team. We will have someone very soon. And we've also got the women's season coming up in August. So we're trying to get someone in the lead up to that. The women's media team will get back to us, I'm sure.
All right, we should probably get into the next game preview, right?
Yeah.
Do we have a stinger for
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
I think we
yeah.
did, but I don't know where it is. So
Just press the button. Doesn't matter.
Adelaide's rocking.
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah. So we've got the Bulldogs at the game that was moved from Ballarat to Marvel this Saturday, 12:40, I believe. Massive game. It's another one of those games I was saying to Lauren on the way here. It's another one of those games where I kind of expect us to lose it just because it's in Melbourne and the Bulldogs have been going pretty well. They've got stars everywhere. But it's also one of those games where if we win it, the lid's coming back off for me. Because I think they're a team we probably, on form, they're probably looking a bit better than us, even though the ladder position doesn't say it. But I just think, again, stars across. We're probably pretty evenly matched.
I feel
Not
like
so.
the Bulldogs' form, so where they were commendable was at the start of the year where they had so many injuries and were still able to remain competitive.
Yeah.
Season long, I had to look through all their wins. There's not really that many impressive wins. Like
Okay.
if we talk about our soft draw and how we've only beaten lower teams, it's a very similar story for the Bulldogs. So,
Tell us more.
Sorry?
Tell us more.
Oh, well, there's not much more to tell.
That's it.
But so yeah, they're 10-6, we're 11-5. And you heard it here first. The only stat to worry about is scores from turnover. So that's got us at first. They're third though. Scores from turnover. In terms of defending them, we're fourth. They're eighth. But still, even with that fourth and eighth, the differential is us second, them third. So it is a pretty tightly contested thing. They've got certainly, if Melbourne had some areas that we had to worry about and things like Petrarca, Cozzy Pickett and Gawn, Bulldogs have got plenty of those sorts of players. They've
It's
got
the midfield.
They got Bont. Liberatore's getting a heap of it. Ed Richards is going nuts.
And
Fraser.
then God's gift to man.
And
Which
you
one's
better
that?
believe there'll be a microscope over any touch that our defenders go anywhere. If we look at Sam Darcy, that's a 50-metre penalty. So I'm very worried about.
Is this the first time it's been Darcy versus Thilthorpe? I haven't seen them. I don't
possibly.
know if they played
Yeah, I think
last year.
you're probably right.
It's certainly, the first real comparison while they've both been in really good form. So,
Yeah.
And it is annoying because Darcy is obviously playing very well. He's a very good player. But anytime he's mentioned, like if he does a standard handball, that is the most remarkable handball that has ever happened in the history of football.
Yes.
It's a little bit, it's unlike the AFL media to overhype something too early, but
Especially something Victorian.
I think they have this time. I just think they have. They've gone a little bit above and beyond. So,
Yeah.
but having said that, he's obviously a good player, and we have a risk of him kicking 5 or 6 on us and putting the game out of our hands. So,
Thanks, Rum Raven. They did play against each other last year at Adelaide Oval. But yeah,
gotcha.
I think to Ben's point, probably not in the form they've been in this year.
no, well, Darcy, there wasn't the same talking about him last year, and
No.
Thilthorpe was coming back from
Yeah,
injury.
he kicked 1-5 last year, Darcy. I do remember that now.
That's his accuracy is improving this year.
Yeah.
So.
Bevo was talking us up in the post-game conference this weekend. He knows we're a big threat. So, yes, it will be interesting. I think it will be an interesting game
And
for
of
sure.
course, Sam loves Bevo, so he'd love to smash Bevo this week. We'll see.
Yeah, he's only surpassed by Dimmer, really.
It's true.
Or should we hear from Bozza?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
We shall.
Right.
Yes. It's like a sauna in here.
Evening, guys. Round 18 from the sauna. You dogs at the dome. Wow, what a confidence builder this would be if we can get this job done. Obviously, going to be a very tough, big ask, especially without Rochelle down there. But well, we can go over no expectations and see how we go. 4 changes out: Rochelle, the shopkeeper, Lizzie Taylor, and Laird or Smith managed one of the two. I'd say Laird is looking a bit shit last week. Jones, first game of the year. Rolfe back. Cook, first game of the year. Dowling for an extra mid-rotation, and Big Muzzer back in that back line. One of those first 4 will be the sub, obviously. Need an extra mid, an extra defender up against probably one of the top teams in the comp. So should be able to match it with them around the ground, but let's see if we can get the job done away from home. Thanks, guys. Speak to you next week.
Don't mind it, Bozza.
Yeah, I like the rationale behind it. I just don't see us making that many changes.
Can't really see Cook coming in, but I see where he's coming from because he did have a pretty good game in the Sandful this weekend.
4, yeah.
But yeah, I'd say it's pretty obviously Pedler for Rochelle. I mean, we haven't discussed Murphy, but the general consensus is he shouldn't be playing next week. So I think, that's probably his time done.
You'd be surprised if he's still in the team.
Yeah.
It was a late reprieve this week, and his form didn't necessarily say that he has to stay in for this week. So
No, I don't think so.
it'll be interesting, as we heard before, whether if Murphy goes out, does he get replaced with someone to play that forward position, or do we get in another midfielder and push Rankin into the forward line? So that's where, you could go your Dowling to get a bit more of a mid sort of rotation. So
The other thing we have forgotten is that Max Michaelani is our new forward.
Oh, yeah.
So don't forget he might be able to come in, and maybe Miller will come back too.
Yeah,
Forgot
true.
about Miller, Bozza. So that was a personal reasons out. So as long as everything's okay, he might come back in. But then the other option is maybe Charlie Edwards. But would we do that to Charlie Edwards, play him at Marvel against
Can't
the
see
Dogs?
that.
Dogs, yeah.
It'd be pretty hardcore.
I reckon
rough.
even more like a Bond would be handy against a player like Bailey Dale, who North showed last week that you put something like they put Constanti on him and he did nothing. Whereas if you don't do anything to Dale, he has had 50 possessions this year. So
Yeah.
he'd be one of those run and gun players that we need to stop. So that'll be important. Maybe it'll be more just Ben Keys or Neil Bullen who keeps tabs of him, but still, that'll be integral, I think, to how we go.
Bozza is in the chat. He says, Rolfe to revive his career in the next 6 weeks whilst Rocky is out, and my boy Cookie to get his last chance. Mr. 2 ineffective possessions and 3 turnovers signed for Gaza. Cap cheats in 2026 post-stock take.
Jeez.
Oh, my God.
Vardy did say also Pedler played in the guts for most of the reserves game. Strange prep for a senior recall to a forward pocket. Yes, very
Well,
strange.
if that frees up Rankin a little bit.
But if he does, rotation with Rankin, so Rankin's still getting
That's
some
true.
midfield time, Pedler
Yep.
does a bit of midfield and forward, that would be not a bad
Yep.
scenario. It's really, we've been often this year thinking Rochelle should do a bit more of that midfield time, so this might be a way to get that rotation happening.
Trevor in the chat says, honestly, we didn't even miss Miller this week, but I actually kind of disagree with that. I get where you're coming from because, he's not one of those players that's like really in your face, but that run off half back, we didn't really seem to have that. Like, I thought Brody was pretty meh. Like, he was fine, but I also thought Hinge was pretty meh this week as well.
Yeah.
And Miller has been pretty good. So
Yes.
it would be interesting if he did play to see what difference that would make. So I do get where you're coming from, Trevor, but do slightly disagree.
Yeah, Miller has that way of getting a walk, well, sometimes not holding the ball, but other times he gets a bit of space and a bit of clean air to get some cleaner ball out of defence, whereas particularly early on we were getting no clean ball and we were rushing like no one's business.
Yes, definitely.
Have you got a Dennis Armfield in lieu of us having a nuffy?
Yeah, well, it depends on team makeup. I was going to go with James Harms, but he was dropped last game. So if he comes back in, he's a bit of a Milksham type from last week. Otherwise, I reckon maybe the player that Sensible was saying we don't want in Caleb Poulter, maybe he could have a real big game. I think he's been playing a bit on the wing.
That would be very
He'll
Dennis
take
Armfield.
a hanger over Dan Curtin. Who knows?
Gosh.
Good luck.
Yeah, I reckon.
That's pretty high up.
Can't see that one, but you never know.
You got to you can't just go the obvious every week.
We got any social media that we need to get through?
Nah.
No, none of that. So we can get to
There's not
predictions
enough-
on the game. We
There's
can
not
wrap
enough
it.
time.
We can wrap
Yeah.
this baby up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Very nice. All right, who have you got winning and by how much, Lauren?
Like, I want to win this so bad.
Yeah.
I want to just yesterday was the game where we were supposed to bury Melbourne, and unfortunately we didn't do that. But as discussed with Mateo and previously, like, Melbourne aren't always a bad team. They have been bad this year, but they do have great players.
Yeah, I've got a good list still.
Bulldogs have great players and they are on fire. And unfortunately, they are off an 8-day break. At Marvel, we're off a 6-day break. So it's not really looking in our favour in that circumstance. But I would like to think it will be a close game. So I don't think I can tip the Crows this week. And I hope I'm wrong. Honestly, I don't think I've ever not tipped the Crows. So
Wow.
I think Bulldogs might get us by a couple of goals. But having said that, I actually don't mind if we don't win this one. I know other people would be like, no, this is the one to prove it. But I don't know. I feel like we've proven ourselves. I know we haven't like beaten the top 8 teams or whatever, but I think our ladder position and our percentage says it all. Like, we're not a shit team.
No.
We're a good team. So, I think like, hey, surprise me, guys. Get it done. I would love that.
Yes. I think, that when you said that reminds me how at times Nixie sort of said, what's the difference between a good team and a great team? And I feel like if we won this game away against the Dogs in Marvel, with a significant injury on the list, etc., then that would start to push us in that, okay, we might be a great team kind of direction. And I think I rate our chances higher at Marvel than I would have at Ballarat. So that's something.
too, yeah.
And obviously that also means there's more chance for some supporters to get there and support the boys. But I actually think I'm going to tip the Crows. I don't know what's wrong with me because I'm usually more pessimistic.
Go for it, Kate.
But yeah, I think I'm hopeful and I would love to see, I think it's going to be a real tactical battle as well because obviously Bevo is very experienced. So it'll be given that we had to make some changes on the fly and figure some things out at the game on the weekend. I'd be interested to and hope that we could do that again if we need to. So I'm going to back us in, but not by much.
Good. All right, I like it. I feel better for me for you tipping the Crows.
Okay, good. Yeah, someone has to.
Ben, what's your vibe?
I think we've got it in it to win, but I'm not going to tip us. I feel like this game for the Bulldogs, they're going to see this is their chance to take a big scalp sort of a game because they really haven't done that this year. So I think they'll be all in. They'll know that if they bring the pressure early, we're susceptible to making a few mistakes. And we have done that. You think about how Freo jumped us when they were manic. And crap for the rest of the year. Well, it's not, and they did win a fair few games in a row. But teams, if they really do pressure us, even Melbourne, like they pressured us, the pressure differential in that first quarter must have been like them in the 200s. I don't know what the number was.
We were like, I think 120 or something like that.
Yeah.
They were still counting us to get to the baseline, it felt. So we're at risk of being jumped if they just come out firing. If we can withstand that early, then we're a really good chance to come home strong, I think. But I'm still going to say we'll lose by 22.
I don't, that like they've been saying how they're like, trying to take that energy over like interstate games and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe that will work. Maybe I don't know. Like, so hard to say.
I reckon that was a pretty good analysis, Ben.
Yeah.
I can see them trying to jump us early. We've seen that in times before, but I do feel like we'll have enough tactical nous to get back into the game if that's the case. I also don't feel confident enough to tip us, but I think we definitely could win this one. But yeah, my gut tells me Bulldogs by about 10 points.
We certainly.
It's just the midfield. The midfield really worries me because who have you got that goes with Bond and Ed Richards and even what's his name that you mentioned? What's that? Libber's another one. No, but old mate with the
Bailey
50
Dale.
possessions. Yeah, Bailey Dale. Who covers a guy like that? You know, because we're not known for tagging guys and all of that, and that's a lot of players to tag. So.
And if we are under pressure, we can't just bomb it into our forward line. They've got Rory Lobb, who is probably a pretty good matchup for Thilthorpe this week. So we're going to have to hit people on the lead, not just hope we can out contested mark people in the forward line.
That's wild to think of Rory Lobb as a threat. So he's obviously having quite a season.
He's been a decent defender.
Yes. So we got Kate saying we'll win, the rest of us saying we won't, but we'll see how we go. Hopefully Kate's right.
Yes.
It's the first game versus the Dogs at Marvel since 2016, Vardy says.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And Jadelaide's made a good point that the Dogs' defence is weak. So if our tools are on fire, we might get somewhere.
And I agree with Vardy's call. Filthy needs to get on his bike now. He's had a few down weeks, so it's time. Or a couple. No, he had the 5 goals the other week against Richmond, I suppose. But but either side of that, that's Richmond.
I think the Stephen May matchup didn't really work out for him, unfortunately, this weekend. But, I don't know enough about the Dogs' defensive unit to know who would be the matchup there.
Yeah, well, there's Lobb. I think, is it O'Donnell's one of their other tall defenders? And that's exhausting my knowledge of the Bulldogs a little bit there.
I think back and forward, we definitely stack up against them. It's the midfield. So if we can get on top in the mid somehow, then I think we're a good chance.
I don't think the Bulldogs have proven anything more this season than we have.
Yeah.
So we've got a chance of going there. It's just really scary when you think of some of those players and how good players for other teams have looked pretty good against us this year. So Petrarca, even though he didn't have a lot of it, looked really damaging. We've had a lot of like when we played Port, Butters got off the hook. Rosie got off the hook. Sarong and Brayshaw, Taurus and Ulim. So we just can't let their stars dominate like some of the other teams have.
I do think we've again. I feel like I say this every week, but we do keep learning from I think both our wins and our losses this year, and maybe it will play in our favour that we didn't just roll over Melbourne like we might as supporters and potentially as the team might have expected to. That maybe that will set us up to even more so perhaps have learned some things from what didn't go right to start with on the weekend and be hopefully a bit more ready for that. But yeah, I'm talking very hopefully.
And another week of an interesting ruck contest as well. Tim English.
Very interesting.
Yes.
And then Sam Darcy and Thilthorpe coming maybe up against each other in the middle of the ground in the ruck, ruck contest. So
oh God.
Either end and then right up against each other.
It's going to be
comparison.
A very interesting game. So, all right, well, we shall see what happens at 12:40 on Saturday. May the Crows come out and pump them.
Oh, let's hope so.
And as we said, big Strath watch along this weekend.
That's it. See you at Strath. Thanks for listening to Here We Crow, episode 126. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Dan.
And thanks, Sam, at home, I'm sure. But
Thanks
thanks,
for the
Mateo. Thanks, Mateo. What's that?
He's in Matt Gambier. He's not.
Is he?
At home.
Oh.
Yeah. He's actually not here for a reason.
I thought it could be family.
I know he had a go at you about peddling, but it's not that bad.
Love you, Sam. And thanks, Mateo from 1%ers for joining us
so
as well.
much.
I appreciate it. And thanks, Bozza, for sending in his selections from the sauna. Hope you all have a good week and go the Crows.
Go Crows.
Yeah.
Bye.